So in the last episode, I talked about is Zelensky a Nazi, and I gave you all kinds of information of why he wasn't. In fact, I had to break it into two parts just because it got out of hand. No, he's not a Nazi. No, the Ukrainian government's not Nazis. Here, I want to address something a little bit different. And that is, I've seen memes about, is he a Satanist? Or is he, I saw him dancing in stilettos, he's gay, or what? I mean, come on. So I'm going to unpack all of this kind of stuff so that you stop spreading stupid lies, because that's what they are. Stay tuned, I'll prove it.
You are listening to The Leadersmith, Darren Gerdes.
Okay, so as I said in the last episode, I was talking about why he's not a Nazi, including 300 historians, putting their names to, like, we study genocide. Zelensky is not a Nazi. This is propaganda from Russia. Now, the propaganda doesn't have to come from Russia. Sometimes it comes over from us. So, for example, there was some Russian propaganda that came from us originally. So here, there's the Russian Ministry to the Council of Europe that is quoting Laura Logan. She is a commentator. She's an award-winning commentator who's done great work sometimes in the past, and she's been on Fox, right? She was saying, quote, the Azov Battalion, which is founded by the United States and NATO, has been killing civilians in eastern Ukraine. News and documentary Emory Award-winning journalist Laura Logan spoke out about Ukraine and Nazism in Western media. That's the Russians tweeting about this. So they're using her kind of as a useful idiot. Okay, so where does this kind of thing come from? Okay, so here's an article. It's on MSN. It's, quote, Laura Logan claims puppet Zelensky was selected in unhinged rant linking Ukraine to the Nazis and to the occult. And in this, she says, she's talking about, well, I don't buy it for a second. And I'll be honest with you, I really think that there's so much misinformation. She's very right about that. There's lots of misinformation, but she might be spreading some of it going on. We never really seen anything like it. I mean, I've been covering wars now for 35 years. Again, there is misinformation. So she was talking first about the black sun of the occult symbol and Nazi SS emblems and things along those lines. And she goes on and on. But I'm only going to talk about another couple paragraphs. She said this, and continued to drop a long rant against Zelensky. She said, quote, I don't like being lied to, and we're being lied to on an epic scale. When we're told our only choice is you have to be 100% with Zelensky, who's a puppet, who you can find on the internet in black stilettos and leather pants, shirtless, doing a spoof and Dancing with the Stars kind of entertainment video that's a mock of a Ukrainian group that does this kind of satanic occult type music video. Okay, let me stop right there. What is she talking about? She is right on some of this, and she's wrong on others. Okay, so first, you have to be 100% with Zelensky or 100% with Putin. No, that's not true. This is logically unsound reasoning. But let's go on. So she's talking about he's a puppet. I don't know that he's a puppet. He was legit. Well, let me go on. Let me read the next paragraph first. Quote, and I mean, Zelensky was selected like so many of our leaders. And honestly, with big tech and with election fraud these days, we don't know how many leaders all around the world have been selected for us and weren't actually voted in, Logan said without offering any evidence to back up her claims. Okay, now, generally speaking, I'm not a big fan of MSNBC, but they're right about this. Like, she said this without offering any evidence of their claims, and they need to be offering evidence for those claims. Was he selected? Look, I've read a lot about Zelensky. I wrote a book about Zelensky. I understand Zelensky. Like, if you want to see it, it's on Kindle. I'll link it below. It's I Need Ammunition, Not a Ride. And I go back to all the background about Zelensky. He was voted in with 73% of the vote. That's in a runoff election after he and the previous president were first and second, and in their system you have to have a runoff if nobody has a majority. Okay, so he won. He trounced him after playing president for 3 years on TV. So people were kind of used to the idea of him being a president, or at least his character. So that's what was going on there. So he won outright. He didn't need to be selected. Okay, but let's go back to this idea that he's a puppet in black stilettos and leather pants, shirtless, doing a spoof, and that's a mock of a Ukrainian group that does this kind of satanic occult type music video. Okay, they weren't doing a satanic occult type music video, and what he was mocking, you have to understand. Now, before I talk about that, let's talk about this. I did a search, went back into the library databases to then go do a search. Zelensky and occult. Nothing. And then I did another search, Zelensky gay. Well, there were things, but it was only things that were saying, like, the first article comes up and says, Red Cross convoy headed to Mariupol turns back. Russia continues bombing despite pledge to stop. Ukraine pleads for more military aid. Zelensky warns Mariupol. So Zelensky's name in there, and then you skip down a couple lines. Disney opposes Florida bill, expands in anti-gay areas. Okay, so now you're seeing why those keywords came up. And if you look through all the results, there's nothing about Zelensky being gay. There's nothing about him being a Satanist. And so that's like looking through everything that you can reasonably look through. This does not cover Sam's blog, who is writing about whatever Sam decides that he wants to write about. This is covering like real legitimate sources. Okay, so that being said, let's keep moving on. Now, how do we know what's going on? There's an article in the Los Angeles Blade. The Blade, Washington Blade or Los Angeles Blade, is the LGBTQ newspaper, right? So it's the Los Angeles Blade is Southern California's LGBTQ news source. And there was an article posted about a month ago, Ukrainian president's queer parody riles American evangelicals. Okay, so that now I'm bringing you a source from the LGBTQ community. Okay, and the author here, his name is James Finn, says in 2014 he brought much of Ukraine, he being Zelensky, brought much of Ukraine and Russia to its knees with a parody version of a song by Ukrainian Europop boy band Kazaki. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Kazaky, Kazaki, whatever it is. Okay, that had him dancing and winking in heels and a crop top. And that actually is what you see in the video. I watched the video. It was a little unsettling, but here, let's find out what was going on. The author goes on and says, why are some evangelical Christians and other U.S. right-wingers saying this video is reason to hope that Russia succeeds in controlling Ukraine? Okay, now, oh, good grief. There are nuts on every side of every grouping, but please don't think that all conservatives are monolithically doing this. There are some people with bad information, and that's what I'm trying to combat here is bad information. Okay, he goes on and says, first, they have no idea what they're watching, and second, they're obsessed with hating LGBTQ people. Okay, so I'm an evangelical, and I'm pretty sure that like people in my church are not obsessed by hating LGBTQ people. We have doctrinal differences about the thing, but this is not how we think. But the first part is correct. First, they have no idea what they're watching. So he unpacks this. Now, he says, and I think this is great that he has this background. He says, first, I should mention that I once read and spoke Russian with ease. Great. So he can kind of help us understand things. And he can even understand a great deal of what was on Ukraine's Got Talent. Ukrainian and Russian are similar. It's like Portuguese and Spanish, but they're not exactly the same. But he understands a great deal of what's going on. So he said, why did Zelensky make the parody video? First, because he's a comedian. So this was while he was a comedian, and he spent years as a comedian, TV actor, movie actor before he ran for president. First, because he's a comedian and it's hilarious. Second, he's a real artist, and his crop top stiletto video has much more to say than the Kazaki original. And while it oozes queer aesthetic, it is not queer. Now, this is the guy writing for the Los Angeles Blade, saying it's not queer. It's a tongue-in-cheek statement about Ukrainian history and nationalism, undoubtedly influenced by Russia's threatening posture that led to the annexation of Crimea later in 2014. So that's what's going on. They're actually making political statements with the song because they changed the lyrics and they're kind of mocking some Russian stuff. Okay, so you can watch that video. It's a little creepy, but the actual one is just as creepy. Okay, so he goes on, he says, what are these guys parroting? You can't understand what Zelensky and his buddies are saying without taking a look at the original English language video, Love by Zelensky, a Ukrainian boy band first formed in Kiev. The group's name is spelled exactly like the Russian word for the Cossacks, a Turkic ethnic group that figures prominently in the history of both Ukraine and Russia. Zelensky became very popular for a while as a band, and Love was a 2011 smash hit that helped drive their fame. Okay, so they say, like boy bands and Europop in general, a genre I enjoy when I'm in the right mood, Love is fluffy, style over substance, flash for effect, naughty just to be controversial. Though the video looks and feels very queer, Zelensky at the time, like most boy bands, marketed itself primarily to girls and young women. Queer was not their brand, said the writer in the Los Angeles Blade. So if you're just believing some meme that's out there, don't. There's more to the story. Okay, what isn't hard to say is what Zelensky and company did with it. They seem to be mocking the original video, which would be funny enough if perhaps queer phobic. But he goes on, Zelensky is married to a woman, has 2 children, and I've never heard any rumors he's bisexual. They prance about straight up mocking stock Russian propaganda phrases, absolutely secure in their sexuality and masculinity. He continues, in less deft hands, it might have ended up offending everyone, but most Ukrainians loved it and experienced it as a thumb in the nose of Putin's ideals of Russian supremacy in the Slavic world. Okay, so that's what's going on. Now, if you understand that, then you don't fall prey to, oh, I saw this meme. Like you do see video evidence, right? You see picture evidence or video evidence, and you're going like, what is going on here? Okay. He finishes. Putin supporters in Russia have been using this video to mock the Ukrainian president, with Russian One and RT airing clips as negative commentary. By the way, I watch RT. I watch regular news, and then I put on RT, and I get this bizarre perspective as the Russians lie about lying, and talk about, like, it's almost like Bizarro world, like that they say these things with a straight face about what's actually going on. And, in Bucha, there's the massacre, and they say, "Oh, these are fakes. This is all made up by the Ukrainian government. Nothing really happened there. They're just." It's bizarre. Watch rt.com/en if you want to get the Russian perspective of things, and then compare that to what you see on US news, on British news, on you can watch India's news or other European news, or just so you can triangulate and see what's actually going on. Okay, he goes on. Then there's the other group of naysayers, American conservative Christians, many of whom took to YouTube comment sections to jeer at Zelensky for being queer, having apparently not understood the parody nature of the video. And that's unfortunate. One, it's unfortunate to be jeering rather than being kind and showing the love of Christ to other people if you claim to be a Christian. And second, you're off base. That's not even what's going on. He's doing something very different. So, yeah. The author concludes with this very depressing statement. Quote, you can see that clearly on YouTube as American evangelicals openly hope Putin wins his war of aggression so he can keep the queers in check, showing that for many conservative Christians, hatred of LGBT people trumps just about everything, including common decency, humanity, and decades of theological tradition. Okay. To the degree that he's right about that statement, that's sad and it's wrong, and you shouldn't be doing that. But this is not the majority of evangelicals. But there are people that say, like, they look at that and they go, what's going on here? Right? And that's unfortunate. So we simply need to check our facts. Is Zelensky a Nazi? I already talked about that in the last one. No. Is he a Satanist? No. But you see little memes like this on Reddit that talk about the Illuminati, cabal, Luciferian Satanists buy politicians and then make sure that they win their elections. Remember, that's kind of like what Laura Logan was saying. They have been doing this for hundreds of years. I'm always leery when fake news heavily promotes a person and or situation. So I dug into Zelensky, spelled wrong, to see what we're doing with this. As expected, he's a shill for them. They're laughing at our admiration. My point, be careful who you worship. Their symbolism will be their downfall. The hand sign of OK is used by the system to symbolize 666. Each finger forms a 6 within the circle. But it's also the same thing that the Proud Boys are being accused of as being somehow racist. And it also just means okay. And it's okay for it to just mean okay. So stop, thinking that you're so brilliant, finding out, oh, I found the conspiracy. Odds are you probably haven't. Is he a Nazi? No. Is he a Satanist because he does okay symbol? No. Is he gay because he's dancing around mocking the boy band or actually mocking the Russians by imitating the boy band and changing the lyrics? No. Was it in bad taste? I think so, but that doesn't mean that he's any of these things. So please check your facts, get your facts, triangulate from legitimate news sources before you spread false information, because you don't want to be causing the problems that are going on out there. Okay, I always quote every episode with a quotation for contemplation, and I want to leave you with this thought. In contrast to, is he a Nazi? Is he a Satanist? Is he gay? Is he this or that? Here's what he actually did. When he first came to power, his first speech before the Ukrainian parliament, he said this, and I'm quoting now, "We will build the country for other opportunities, the one where all are equal before the law and where all the rules are honest and transparent, the same for everyone. And for that, we need people in power who will serve the people. This is why I really don't want my pictures in your offices. For the president is not an icon, an idol, or a portrait. Hang your kids' photos instead and look at them each time you're making a decision." That's powerful. He's talking to people who are in a fairly corrupt environment. Historically, Ukraine is a pretty corrupt country, and he's telling them, look, when you make a decision, I don't want you to do that in your office with a picture of me hanging on the wall. Look at your kids. Think about the decision that you're about to make. And if you think you're going to be proud of yourself, if you're making that decision, if you think you want your kids to know about that, make it that way. That's the actual Zelensky. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode. I hope that helps you understand the truth about President Zelensky. Again, I wrote the book about him. If you want to see it, it's linked below. It's on Amazon. Thank you for your time. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.